Any ads heard during this episode that are not in our voice are placed by third-party agencies. They should not be considered the opinion of or to be endorsed by Hoosier Myths and Legends.
Welcome to another episode of the Hoosier Myths and Legends podcast.
I'm Rebecca Wilhelm.
I'm Mary Quigley.
And I'm Hope Wilhelm.
Join us as we dive into the spookier side of the Hoosier state.
So what comes to your mind when you think of Indiana? Do you think of corn? Do you think of basketball? Do you think of the Indianapolis 500? Maybe you think of famous celebrities who were born in Indiana, like John Mellencamp or Michael Jackson.
But as the saying goes, there's more than corn in Indiana. 92 counties make up the Hoosier state. In this podcast, we are going to discuss some Indiana folklore from each of these counties. If you are into tall tales, ghosts, or spooky legends, this is a podcast you are not going to want to miss. The legend we have for you today is from Palmyra Township in Knox County, Indiana.
Today we're diving into the eerie history of the Shadowwood Estate, which is a large 2.5-story Colonial Revival-style brick dwelling that was built for Colonel Eugene C. Wharf in 1917. This house and the land it sits on is known for its Civil War legends and unsettling encounters. The home has long been rumored to be haunted. Everything from cold spots to a fog-like cloud has been reported to have been seen in the home. So sit back, relax, and get comfortable as we unravel Shadowwood's haunted past and explore its ghostly lore.
Happy Halloween, listeners!
Yes, happy Halloween. It is my favorite time of year, which is spooky season.
Yes, it's definitely our favorite time of year, and we have a special episode for you today.
So this is a legend that I have been fascinated with since 1996 because, as you listeners know, I attended Vincennes University. That's where I've got my associate's degree. And this is a legend that was told over and over again on the campus while I was a student there.
So we are going to be talking about the haunted Sigma Pi fraternity headquarters that was located in Vincennes, Indiana from 1962 until 2005.
The Shadowwood Estate is probably, I would say, one of the most well-known haunted locations in Knox County.
However, Vincennes University and the fraternity officials claim that the building is not haunted.
Well, that's the official record anyway.
But as we all know, ghostly lore and history surrounds this home.
I can't even remember the television show back in the late 90s, like early 2000s, but it even was on a television show at the time. So let's go ahead and get into this because the property and area has a very neat history to it that actually goes back to the beginning of our country, and it has ties to the battle between the North and the South as well.
To get an idea of the history surrounding this place, we need to start at the beginning.
So the land where Shadowwood sits is part of the old Rose Hill farmstead, which was a historic farm that was actually established after the American Revolution. It was granted by Congress and set up as a farm right after the Revolutionary War. And Rose Hill even had a fort on the property during the War of 1812, but that fort was never attacked.
Interestingly, the Rose Hill farmstead served as a meeting place for abolitionist rights before and during the Civil War. Some of the legends about the property say that the original farmhouse at Rose Hill served as a stop on the Underground Railroad, which is really neat.
Yeah, I'm very fascinated by that whole thing. And there are many legends and lore out there that say that that original farmhouse at Rose Hill, it actually contained hidden rooms to hide the slaves.
These slaves were trying to get north to Canada where they could be free.
So another legend about this whole property involves the hill where this Shadowwood Estate now sits. So during the Civil War, there was this group of Southern sympathizers, and they were known as the Knights of the Golden Circle. And these guys used that hill where Shadowwood now sits. They used that hill as their meeting grounds.
The area had many who were Southern sympathizers.
And I guess I'm always shocked by that because Indiana was the first in the Union to join up and stay with the United States. So that one always shocks me. But the Knights of the Golden Circle were this group that's focus was on the expansion of, they focused on a couple of different things, the expansion of slavery, Southern nationalism, and secession from the United States.
The group would meet in the forest on the hill opposite of the Rose Hill farm. And because of these meetings, the hill was known as Rebel Hill.
Yes. So in 1917, Colonel Eugene C. Wharf would choose Rebel Hill as the location to build his home.
He was looking for someplace quiet to retire.
And Colonel Wharf felt that Rebel Hill would be the perfect location because this area seemed very peaceful. And of course, the hill afforded him great views of the area.
Now, one of the legends about the colonel is that he was aware of the legends of Rebel Hill and its history. So he had a flagpole placed in front of the house, actually in front of the door.
And this is a legend that I actually read in Mark Merriman's book, Haunted Indiana. Apparently, Colonel Wharf, being a veteran, he was a very patriotic man. And so he would actually raise the flag himself each morning in front of the house just to show that he held allegiance to the United States. And I love that.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I do too. Until Colonel Wharf's death, this house, Shadowwood Estate, it was a very eventful place.
Colonel Wharf and his wife were known for hosting parties at Shadowwood that were well attended by politicians and important people of the time.
When Colonel Wharf passed away in 1956, the house and Colonel Wharf's estate was left to Vincennes University.
We'll be back after a short break with some of the ghostly lore associated with the house. Are you an Indiana small business owner looking to reach a wider audience?
Consider partnering with the Hoosier Myths and Legends podcast directly to advertise your business.
Our listeners are passionate, engaged, and love supporting local businesses just like yours. By advertising with us, you'll connect directly with a community that values what Indiana has to offer.
Promote your business with the Hoosier Myths and Legends podcast and watch your customer base grow. Ready to make your mark? Contact us today at HoosierMythsandLegends@gmail.com and let's bring your business to the forefront.
We're back.
Let's get back into it.
When the colonel passed away, his widow ended up gifting this house and all of its grounds to Vincennes University. And VU actually ended up using this house as a dormitory for women.
However, Shadowwood is about 10 miles from the main campus, so this didn't work out very well.
When they realized that this house was not going to make a very good dormitory, it was suggested to sell Shadowwood to the Sigma Pi fraternity so that they could use it for their national headquarters.
This seemed like a good idea since Sigma Pi had been founded at Vincennes University in 1897, and Mrs. Wharf loved the idea, so they went forward with the deal.
Listeners, this is something that's very interesting to me because although I went to school there, I did not get involved at all with Greek life, but I knew Sigma Pi, knew several classmates and stuff that were involved with the fraternity. But I thought that was really a neat thing. I had no idea that fraternity was founded at Vincennes. So I think that's really cool. And Shadowwood Estate ended up serving as their national headquarters from 1962 until 2005. After that, it was sold to an individual, and it's now a private residence.
So some of the ghost lore associated with the house involves the colonel himself.
When we were doing our research, something I came across over and over and over again is that many people have incorrectly called Colonel Wharf a Civil War colonel, and this is actually not the case.
Wharf was actually a colonel in the Spanish-American War. He was also born well after the Civil War, so never had any involvement in that conflict.
Yeah, and over the years, there have been many employees of Shadowwood who have had some experiences with what they believe is the colonel.
One even may have gotten a glimpse of him through a window.
Okay, so much of the ghost lore associated with Shadowwood is what I would call your classic hauntings. So this means there's been cold spots, sounds of footsteps on the stairs, lights that seem to have a mind of their own that go off and on by themselves, your classic hauntings.
The main strange legend we kept seeing over and over involves coffee, and I love coffee, so this was a good one.
Yes, so Mary and I are lovers of coffee, and listeners, this is a different one for sure.
So over the years, there are many people who have had hot cups of coffee that just turn ice cold immediately.
So that makes me wonder if the colonel was not a fan of coffee. I don't know.
I don't know either. Another different legend about the house is that many have reported seeing a cloud-like fog through the house that will disappear very quickly.
Yeah, and that's very weird to me. So an employee reported walking up to the house to enter and fumbling in her purse, you know how you do, looking for your keys, only to have the front door open for her and no one else was there.
That's not terrifying at all. In Mark Merriman's Haunted Indiana book, he tells of an employee who may have actually glimpsed the colonel one morning.
Okay, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and just read a quote from his book. One may have caught a glimpse of him. One morning in 1980, a young field representative came to the building early to work on a project before leaving for a week-long trip. As he approached the main entrance, his mind very much on getting his task accomplished before leaving on his trip, a movement in an upper floor window caught his attention. I looked up at the window that was in the main room upstairs, he said, and I could clearly make out the face of an old man staring out. He was not looking at me. I think he was just looking out at the entire estate. I cannot say for sure, but in my mind, I think it was the colonel, just coming back to Shadowwood to check up on us. If it was him, I hope he liked what he found.
That's actually kind of sweet.
I think so too. When I read that, I thought, wow, that is so sweet.
Well, whatever is going on at Shadowwood, it's definitely odd, but no one knows for sure who's haunting the place.
Now, I have to say, I did a little more digging and doesn't look like there's any new ghost stories associated with the house. But of course, the university and the fraternity sold it 2005, and it's actually now a private residence. So I haven't seen anything new reported.
Just a reminder to all of our listeners to have a very safe and fun Halloween.
Yes. So this actually wraps up season 5 of our show. Now, listeners, our podcast will be going dark during the holiday season. This will allow Mary and I time to spend with our families and also for us to come up with much more material for you.
We will be back for season 6 after the new year.
And guys, I have to admit, I am very excited about season 6. So we have some new stories to bring you, and I've got some interviews lined up with some people that we think you're going to love, and you're not going to want to miss it.
So keep an eye out on our social media pages for updates.
We do have a couple of special episodes planned that'll air during our break. So like Mary said, keep an eye out on our social media pages and you'll get notified when we do put out those special episodes.
Have you or someone you know ever had an experience at the Shadowwood Estate? Are you familiar with the ghostly legends or the history surrounding the house and grounds? We would love to hear about it. Please send us an email to HoosierMythsAndLegends@gmail.com or reach out to us on social media. We may use it in a later episode. In the email, let us know if you wish to remain anonymous.
To see our source material, please visit our website, HoosierMythsAndLegends.com. Please find us and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and now Twitter. Hoosier Myths and Legends is a Quigley Productions podcast.
Our theme song was written and recorded by Wet Blanket. The song title is Taxidermy Race Car.
As always, stay spooky.